Alright, we're back with more Kamen Rider Kabuto. So yeah, episodes 11 to 15, just like the last Agito podcast I did. So yeah, this episode, I don't know what to make of it, I'll be completely honest, but yeah. So it's the proper introduction of the next Kamen Rider in the series, Kamen Rider Drake, as he's called. So basically the plot revolves around, actually, I really don't know how to put it, so I'll just go over the plots that are going on in this, or just the things that go on in it, more so, because there's no real central plot. Basically, at the start, uh, Arata tries to tell Soji that he's given up being the bee from the last episode. Soji really isn't too impressed, and he tells him that he's forgetting something, but Arata doesn't know what he's forgetting. And then we get some weird, like, as TV Tropes puts it, hoye, I guess, between the two. I don't really understand why the episode kind of frames it that way. I don't know. It seems to think that, I don't know, the male friendship thing is mainly only a thing because the two guys are attracted to each other. I don't know. I don't want to read too much into it, but like it's really odd that they chose to sort of, I guess, frame it that way. Yeah. Um so then we get Soji crossing paths with sorry, I'm trying to remember names. Daisuke, I believe. Yeah, Daisuke. And we get a bit of development with him and his. I don't know if she's his sister or probably not, but like the little girl that's with him, whose name is Gon, which instantly reminded me of um, the protagonist from God, what is that anime called? Hunter x Hunter, and yeah, because basically they just mainly in terms of her name, because I know that that's the name of the protagonist there. They establish that she is his guardian apparently, and she watches over him. They establish that his job is basically he seems to be a freelance like makeup artist. He goes around and gets hired by different women mainly to do their makeup for various like things that they need to go, or that they're going to go to, um, which is fine. It's just a little weird, or maybe not weird, but like a little unusual. Um, so yeah, and he travels around with a guitar case that has makeup stuff in it, and Gon carries a phone, and she's basically kind of like his secretary, kind of, where she answers the phone and um, tells him when she is, or no, tells him when he has an appointment. So, yeah, so he goes and does the makeup of a woman who I think is, maybe she's going to attend a party or maybe a wedding. I don't remember, but yeah, so he goes and does that. And he does such a good job, and she likes it. Or likes the job that he did. And then he also goes and I think it's before that he interrupts a robbery, but only when the robber has a woman as a hostage. He specifically says that, so you know he's straight. You gotta remember this was the mid 2000s, and this is a Japanese show, so they gotta establish that pretty quickly. They gotta beat you over the head with it, so you know. Um, and then yeah, so what he does is somehow he gets way ahead of where when the robber with the woman gets away in a car, And he somehow has the keys to it and everything. I don't know if that's the car he came in or not, because they don't really set that up. But anyways, he blinds him with 2 of his makeup brushes, to which he threw a third thing. Don't know what happened to that third thing, but okay. And it blinds the guy for, or long enough for him to, like, stop the car, and then he gets in the back seat while Gon takes out the keys from the ignition, and he blinds the guy, and then I think, like, I think it's a little ambiguous as to what exactly he does. It seems like he kind of gouges the guy's eyes out, maybe. But no real answers to what happens there. I think he just does something to make sure that the guy gets arrested, and the woman that's there, he impresses with, I guess, just his presence. And she immediately, like, fawns over him. So, yeah, just kind of a weird sequence of events, I'm not going to lie. So then we get to Soji and Arata. We get back to them, and they, or Arata is trying to, I guess he's trying to thank Soji for the advice he gave him, is what I'm assuming is happening, where he's cleaning up Soji's house, and but Soji basically tells him that he keeps the house in a very specific way, so he doesn't need to be doing that. But then Arata gets a call to where he was invited to, as the subtitles put it, a mixer. And Soji's like, good, maybe a girlfriend will help you sort things out. Which is just like, alright. It's like, it's a really weird framing of this episode where Soji maybe thinks Arata's gay. It's like, Soji, I'm sorry, bro, but, like, with your fashion sense, when you go out, you wear the scarf, you kind of wear your clothes as you do, you have the mannerisms that you do. I don't think anyone would think Arata was gay at first sight, unlike you. I'm just saying, bro. So, yeah. So anyways, I'm just saying that because, like, I don't know, no one brings it up, and it's really fucking weird how they put things in this episode with that. So then, I'm trying to think. Soji, or Arata, because a friend of his isn't gonna meet up, or isn't gonna be able to go, invites Soji along, and so they go. There's also a bit, I forgot about this, earlier in the episode where Soji is talking with the woman from Zect, and from one of the previous episodes, who wants to try and recruit him to join Zect. And he does not want to join because, in his words, he doesn't mesh well with any organization, really. So, yeah, so he doesn't think that that would be a good fit. Very arrogant on his part, but I can definitely agree with that. Just saying. She thinks it. She initially says it's because of his lone wolf shtick, but he corrects her and says that. So, yeah. I think it's more so that he just doesn't want to play ball with anything else, and he doesn't want any real partners or anything. So, yeah. And that's when he meets Daisuke and everything early on, and they kind of, I guess, have a bit of a rivalry when Daisuke thinks that the woman is upset because Soji was specifically making her upset, rather than her just being disappointed that Soji didn't want to join Zect and everything. So, yeah. So later on, at the mixer, it's on a boat that is traveling on the river that they're on. It's Soji and Arata with 4 women, and Soji tastes some of the tempura and says that it's not made very well. It doesn't have a good balance of the ingredients. So he goes to the ship's kitchen, which is right next to where the captain, I think, is steering it. And he makes a new batch of it. Bro, come on, dude. Oh yeah, he also gave I'm sorry, I can't remember names for the life of me. Hiyori. He gives Hiyori a basket of some kind of vegetable. I forgot the name of it, but yeah. To I think thank her for the food that she's made him at the restaurant that she works at. So yeah. And he also says to share it with Arata. So yeah. So then uh at the when after he makes the food, all the women like the food and everything, and then we see that Daisuke and Gon are on the boat as well, and they go down, and Daisuke basically says that he tries to attend any mixers that he can, even though he wasn't invited to this one. Soji even asks if Arata knows him, and Arata's like, "Nah, I don't know him." And yeah, so then Daisuke starts doing all the women's makeup and everything until he gets to the last one. And before this, we see Gon on top of the boat. See basically a tarp blows away from the top of the boat, and one of the women from the party was turned into foam. So yeah, so she tries to tell Daisuke, he's too busy, but then Arata and Soji ask her what's going on, and she leads them to where the woman is, and they deduce that one of the women at the party is a worm in disguise. So yeah. So then they get going to give them more information on if she remembers anything about the woman, and Gon says that she was wearing gray pants. So yeah, so they see two of the women there wearing gray pants and everything, and they deduce it's the one that Daisuke is currently doing the makeup of, because he says that her skin is unusual and his makeup won't adhere to it, like normal. So Soji outs the worm, and it transforms into its normal form, and so Soji goes Kabuto and starts fighting it. So yeah, so then they get onto dry land, and like I said, Soji fights the worm. Meanwhile, we then see Daisuke get the dragonfly onto the, I guess, mount or whatever the hell it is, the henshin device that he has, and he transforms into, I guess, it's Kamen Rider Drake, right? Just making sure. Yeah, Kamen Rider Drake. And Arata sees that, and he's just like, and basically, and basically meaning he just transformed. And that's where the episode cuts off. So yeah. So overall, kind of a weird episode, I'm not gonna lie. I think there is kind of some fun to be had, maybe with the butting heads of Soji and Daisuke. It's a little weird in terms of the kind of homoerotic kind of shit that they tried to do with certain parts of the episode. I just really do not understand why they framed certain things that they did in this one. With the writing and direction, it's really odd. So yeah. I think some of the things that happen in it are fine with Daisuke's introduction, with the robbery and everything. And I think that the Arata having the mixer, which he brings Soji to, is good. It is just really weird, though. I feel Arata's pain when it comes to the fact that, like, he tries to thank Soji, but Soji isn't, like, really giving a shit. Arata even tries to say to Soji, "We're friends, aren't we?" And then Soji's just like, "No, we're not." Or basically just doesn't want to waste time having friends. Which I think wasn't it the very previous episode or last two episodes or something like that? Soji basically says he doesn't want to have friends, and more so just like, I think what, like acquaintances or something like that. Um, they just really wanted to play up, I guess, Soji's ego, I'm assuming is what happened in this one. Which is just like, yeah, certain people love Soji. I do not know why, realistically. I don't know how you can like someone in regards to, I think, his personality, who is this egotistically arrogant and narcissistic. I just really do not understand it whatsoever. Like, you can like the things that he does and the style that he has, but I do not like this guy because if you had to interact with this guy in real life, you would be like sick of him pretty quick. Like he is definitely a piece of shit. And like early on, they tried to tone down his ego and make him, I think, a slightly more well-rounded character in terms of his personality, but man, they just dropped that after that batch of episodes, and I don't know why. It is really, really disappointing that they did it like they did. Um, but yeah, so got Kamen Rider Drake. And we're gonna move on to episode 17. Or not 17, sorry. Episode 12. I don't know why I said 17. But yeah. Oh yeah, and before I forget, there is another introduction scene to Daisuke and Gon that before I forget it. Basically, when we're told that Gon is Daisuke's, I guess, what is the word? Guardian, I guess. They're in the rubble of what was Shibuya, and they come across this woman that is basically really hurt and possibly dying, and I think Daisuke like does her makeup is what happens. I can't remember, but yeah, there was another thing there. Forgot to mention that. So yeah, on episode 12. Alright, so thankfully this episode is a lot more focused and less clunky than the previous one, in my opinion. It has more of kind of a central through line in terms of the plot and everything, and I think everything is a bit more cohesive in this one than the previous episode. So basically, in the last episode, the main worm, got away and is disguising itself as different women to get away from Soji and Daisuke and Arata. And it does so by, like, killing and transforming into different women that it comes across. To the point where it transforms into a female friend of Daisuke's. And yeah. Or at least someone he knows. It might have been someone from the previous episode, but I cannot remember for the life of me. But yeah. So anyways, I'm trying to think. Basically, the episode kind of deals with a dick measuring contest between Soji and Daisuke, where Soji, he's kind of shown up by Daisuke initially because they both go to the same restaurant, which I should mention, we pick up from the last episode, and Soji and Daisuke take care of the worms that are there. But yeah, so they go to the same restaurant, which is the one that Hiyori and Arata work at, the French-themed restaurant, during a busy lunch rush, and they sit together and order the same food and everything, but then also Daisuke challenges Soji to a contest where I think they're supposed to pick up different women or something like that. Like I said, it's a dick measuring contest. It's a literal dick measuring contest, basically. And Soji accepts the challenge. Initially, Daisuke and Gon, they win 100 yen off their orders with these new scratch-off tickets that the restaurant has, and but Soji initially doesn't. So yeah, so after they're done eating and everything, Soji literally stays behind at the restaurant for as long as it takes to get a winning ticket. The thing though is like it's less like I think luck and more so just a numbers game. I think he is just single-mindedly determined to match Daisuke with getting one of those. And I've got to say, as an episode that shits on Soji's ego, I'm all for this. Just saying. So yeah, yeah, I'm just all for Soji's like jealousy and want to be the best and everything. So while Soji's doing that, Daisuke goes to an all women's wrestling club, I believe is what it's supposed to be. And he goes into the makeup rooms of the women and does their makeup and everything and impresses them and makes them look all pretty and everything. Um, and just gonna say that like it's a bit stereotypical, but I understand like all that shit and everything. I should also say earlier on, before this, Arata approaches Daisuke at a restaurant and offers him to work with Zect, but Daisuke is not interested, and he to get away from Arata, he does his makeup like a lot of the women to basically just make fun of Arata, and somehow Arata like falls asleep during that, and he like gets, but before that he gets like, I guess sort of not impressed, but like I'm trying to think of the word, but like I don't know, some shit like that. And he then falls asleep, and when he wakes up a little bit later, some of the other people that can see him at the restaurant see him, and they just laugh at him. And credit to the director, they have his actor like sitting at an angle away from the camera where you can't see his face for a full probably 30 seconds or so until or maybe not 30 seconds, maybe a little bit less than that, but until he gets up and looks in a nearby mirror and sees the makeup. I was kind of expecting it to be more ridiculous, I'm not going to lie. The joke, unfortunately, seems to be that he is having, or he had more, I guess, feminine makeup applied to his face, which makes him look more feminine, like I said. And 20 years later, that joke really doesn't land too much, I think. It more so just comes off as like, ha ha ha, he looks like a woman. What ridiculousness. Yeah, I would figure that they would want to go with the joke that like maybe he has like clown makeup on. I think that joke would have landed better and held up better over time. I'm just gonna say like these mid 2000s gay jokes are just not great. I'm not gonna lie. And yeah, they were probably fine for 2006, even though still not great. But like, they don't hit too well nowadays. At least to me, at least. Or at least to me. So, yeah. Between the last episode and this one is just really weird. So, yeah. So we have that. Then Arata talks with his coworker about Soji telling him that he's forgotten something important, and his coworker says maybe that she understands, and like the thing is, why did he join Zect in the first place and everything. So yeah, so he's left wondering what was going on. She finishes, they're both eating ramen at a local food stand, and she finishes quickly, and then pays and then leaves when she says that. So yeah, so when Soji and Daisuke meet up, towards the end of the episode, the women all start fawning over Soji, and Daisuke's like, "You know them?" And Soji's like, no, but they know me. And basically, uh, this come granted, this is played more as his ego rather than like the sexism and him just thinking he's above everyone else. But the way he phrases it is weird. He says, all women are like flowers, and flowers all know that they bloom under the sun's rays. Is basically how the subtitles put it, and it's just like, what the fuck? Like, this episode is kind of supposed to be about taking down Soji's ego just a bit, or at the very least, just making him feel a bit of a sting for it, and making fun of him for it. But like at the same fucking time, his ego just, whew, man, makes him come off as a bit sexist. And then one of the reasons why I don't like writing like this, and it's a problem I have with The Big Bang Theory and Sheldon's ego, is the fact that, like, the writers seem to think that the character having this ego is fine at the very least if the show acknowledges it and at the very least shows that it's aware that the ego is there and is annoying. So they put in jokes to acknowledge it, that they know the guy is annoying and everything, but they don't do anything to actually like rein it in or change it in any meaningful way to make him more mature or humble or anything. That's a big problem I have with The Big Bang Theory, is the fact that they just, from remembering like when I used to watch it as a teenager, is the fact that, like, and looking back on it, is just the fact that Sheldon on that show just has a huge ego for understandable reasons, but not justified reasons, and it's just so annoying. And it's one of the reasons why Soji in this show just very much annoys me, is the fact that, like, on top of that, I know people like this in real life, and it's annoying in real life. So in the show, it annoys me to no end. Just to explain why I don't really care for this character that much, or at the very least just how he acts. But yeah, so after they after that shit about the women and everything, and the thing is, like, I think if this were played maybe more today or in a different angle, or even maybe in a Western adaptation of the show, I think it would have been better if Daisuke, when he goes to do the women's makeup, maybe I think the joke would have been better if he does their makeup to make them look prettier, but because they're in a wrestling league, they don't like their makeup being done like that, so they beat the shit out of him or something. I think that would have been a lot better. I don't know. So yeah, to me, actually, I'll just get on with this before I make the next point I was gonna make. So, Soji then points out Daisuke's friend. I can't remember her name for the life of me, and I don't care because she's not that important. He says that basically she is a worm, and the reason why he knows this is because Daisuke finishes off his makeup application with also applying a perfume, which we do see in the last episode in this one. However, while you can smell it on the women behind Soji, you can't smell it on her, because while the worms can imitate a person's body, they can't imitate their smell. So yeah, so he outs her as a worm. It transforms back into the worm that we've been following throughout the episode, to which I feel like there's probably a deleted scene from the shooting script that maybe showed the worm taking her over, or explained who the hell she is. I'm assuming she was one of the women that Daisuke did the makeup of in the previous episode, or maybe even this one. Kind of bad with faces on this one, or just like short-term memory in a few different places. But yeah, so Soji transforms into Kabuto, Daisuke transforms into Drake, and they start fighting the worm that's there with the backup worms as well. Arata is there too, and one of the worms gets to him and starts and he tries to run away. Then he calls on Soji, but then Soji tells him, "Don't let your friendship with me um, basically blind him or think he's gonna get help from Soji always and everything." So then that makes Arata realize what he's forgotten about, and he says to Soji that he realized what he forgot, and I think also I think Soji also says to him before that, why did you join Zect? And so Arata remembers he joined Zect to take down the worms, and he also says that Soji and him are not friends. So yeah. So that gets Soji, that impresses Soji that Arata came to that realization. And so he tells him that, or he invites him over and says that he'll make him something special at his house. So, yeah. So Arata fends off the worm, and then Daisuke casts off the armor and transforms into his full Drake form. And he defeats, I think, a couple worms, but then he tries to take on the main worm, but unfortunately, because it has like that shadow projection of his friend that it shapeshifted into and replaced, he can't bring himself to fight it. Basically, kind of like, I would say, maybe Sanji from One Piece. So yeah, and it should also be said that this is this also reminds me of a scene in Dragon Ball Z specifically, where Cell tries to do the same thing to Android 18 after he's absorbed 17 to, I guess, get her to take down her or bring down her guard. So yeah, so he can try to absorb her. So yeah, and they kind of play it straight here, but Soji interrupts and does the fast forward motion. Where he takes down some of the worms, and then he fights off that worm and does a rider kick on it, and yeah. To which Daisuke then just what is the word? He says his friend's name, and then Soji tells him about how the worms use other people's likenesses to make them take down or make them bring down their guard, and that he shouldn't or he should keep that in mind or whatever, or he shouldn't let it get him or make him stand down or whatever. And Daisuke's like, you may be right, but I still don't like you. And yeah, no, same, bro. I feel ya. So he tries to attack Soji, but then stops, and I think Soji walks away. So yeah, should also say that I forgot earlier in the episode as well, we get a scene between Arata's coworker and one of their higher ups and everything, where they discuss Daisuke and Soji and everything. She's wondering why they have to kill them just because they won't work with Zect and everything. And also before that as well, Arata's father and the guy discuss Kamen Rider Drake and everything. And just the fact that he exists. Basically, it's just a report on it. So yeah. So overall, I think this episode was much better than episode 11. I'm not gonna lie. Episode 11 was, like I said, episode 11 was kind of a mixed bag. I didn't really care for the gay jokes in it. It genuinely comes off saying that male friendships are gay, which is just what? or that Arata, the reason Arata wants to be friends with Soji, which I don't understand for whatever reason that he wants to be, but whatever, is like that there's like gay feelings, but I don't know. It's just really odd to like have that be how that is. When I'm pretty sure other Kamen Rider shows have shown like male friendships between some of the characters, some of the main characters and secondary characters, and it's just like it's fine. Guys can be friends. Really fucking weird, or really fucking weird. Um, and yeah, but this episode I think has a better balance of a lot of things. The only thing I don't like is the fact that like all the women start fawning over Soji, even though he doesn't know them, but they somehow know who he is. It's really dumb. The show just has a really weird like tendency to do that, and that's annoying. But yeah, um, I do like that we get some development for Daisuke and everything. And also, Gon, she isn't his like little sister or anything. She is an amnesiac girl that he's known for about 3 months. We get that as well during the like mission report on him. So yeah, to Arata's father, and yeah, so yeah, just we have that. So yeah, I don't really think I have much else to say on this episode. It's just okay. It was much better than episode 11, but yeah. So yeah, on to episode 13. All right, so we go from two kind of meh episodes, if I'm being completely honest, to an actual really good one. I'm not even gonna lie; they cover a lot in the almost 24 minutes that this episode is, and like, I'm not complaining at all. I think it's actually paced pretty well. So in this one, we get the return of a few different characters. Shun Kageyama, who was the, I think, second in command of Shadow, or at the very least, the main like secondary or main soldier. Um, I think he was the second in command at the very least. He was the guy who was in the hospital in one of the previous episodes who got really hurt and everything. We also got the return of So Yagamura, no, Yagaruma, from the previous episodes, the previous Kamen Rider the Bee, and everything. And we are dealing more with Shadow, as it's revealed they are dissolved or have been dissolved, and everything, and all of their soldiers have been either let go from the force, or maybe they even quit, and now they're in like different jobs and like civilian identities and whatever. Or some of them have been redesigned or reassigned to different parts of Zect and everything. Specifically, we get Kageyama, like assigned to the main teams that are dealing with the worms, as well as um, uh, investigating Kabuto. And in this episode, they are trying to find out who is apparently the mole that is leaking information from Zect to Kabuto himself. And yeah, as well as a few different reveals, which is actually pretty fun. So we pick back up from the end of the previous episode where Daisuke is trying to fight Soji. Soji keeps like dodging his attacks, as well as I think throws some right back at him, until Gon comes in and breaks up the fight. This is also just something that carries over from the previous episode that like I just genuinely just don't like about the series, which I've already explained, is the fact that it keeps like what is the word? It keeps like putting Soji in the right for a lot of things, even though he's a narcissistic jackass, and realistically you shouldn't do that most of the, or a lot of the time. But in regards to that, she says that Soji is in the right for, I guess, what was going on there, and basically kind of puts Daisuke's feelings aside. It's just like, in my opinion, even though, yeah, Soji was in the right for what he said was just more mechanical, more kind of robotic, more just a disconnected feeling kind of way of looking at things. Whereas Daisuke, um, I don't know, it's just he is more in his feelings and everything, but also at the same time, like, he wasn't really in the wrong to, like, at the very least at first, um, be affected emotionally by the fact that um, the worm took uh, the form of one of his female friends, and it's like, that's at the very least understandable why he would be like that. It's just really weird how they decided to do that. I don't understand. It's like, Soji at the very least, in my opinion, if you want to make Soji like more likable in these moments, you should say, you should have it be that he is in the right for what he is saying, but he's sorry that it had to come to that. That he's sorry that he's right. He doesn't always want to be, or he wishes he wasn't. You know, that's, I think, how you make a character like this more likable, and you actually have a thing where he's in the right, but he comes off as more humble and everything. I don't know. Like, if I were writing the series, that's how I would try to put that and everything. Um, like, in previous episodes, I feel like, I think it was it episode 4? Whichever one that dealt with Aruta's brother, I felt like uh, Soji was more, or was better written there, where it seems like he was more sorry of what was happening or what was going on, because like his actions where he didn't fight back against the worm that took Aruta's brother's form and everything, because Aruta didn't really want that to happen, and it was sort of a test for Aruta to man up and put his feelings aside for his brother and realize the worm isn't his brother. The worm just took his brother's form and has his memories and everything and sounds like him. I think that that's a better way to present this kind of thing than just Soji just being completely cold towards other people's feelings. Yeah, it's just, they've done both, and I liked one more than the other, and it's kind of inconsistent for his character. But yeah, so we have that, and Daisuke and Gon just fuck off, and then yeah, so then we get on with the main plot where we have the returns of Kageyama and So basically, we get a reveal that Shadow has been disbanded because they have no leader, because Aruta stopped being the bee. So, yeah. So, yeah, so they've been disbanded and everyone is scattered across Tokyo and everything, but they slowly work to get everyone back together for Shadow. As So is looking to basically reclaim, I think, his status as the bee and become the leader of it again. However, we get a reveal that it's Kageyama who is the bee this time, and he is the new leader of Shadow. And basically, he was investigating, or he is investigating throughout this episode, who is the person that's leaking Zect intel to Kabuto. And they thought that So might be it, which doesn't really make any sense to me because So hasn't been in several episodes. So I don't really understand how the hell that makes any sense, but okay. We weren't even really given any misdirects as the audience to think that. So, it's just really odd. I'm not gonna lie. Um, but yeah, I feel like if they wanted the audience to be in on that, they would have had him, or they would have set up some misdirects. Is what I'm getting at. So then, it is revealed towards the end because of the fact that the main guy, uh, or not the main guy, the guy who's leading the team that Arata is a part of, gives him a briefcase with a thing for Kabuto, um, and everything. Uh, Basically, they determined through that, I believe, that Arata is the one leaking stuff to Kabuto. Because I believe that they've probably deduced that Arata, at the very least, knows who Kabuto is and has been acting in ways to help him out and everything. So it's not really out of the realm of possibility that they figured it out um, that quickly. So yeah, we have that. So the main plot that gets things, or that carries things when those plots aren't going on, is Soji wanting an import of a type of olive oil because the restaurant that Hiyori and Arata work at ran out of it, and the woman who I think owns and runs the restaurant and mainly cooks for it, she sends Hiyori to go get some. Um, and so she does, and Soji is right behind her. They go into the shop. It's an import shop which has like food, as the sign says and as the subtitles translated, food, miscellaneous items, and furniture. I feel like that's out of sequence in regards to how that should be listed. It should be like food, furniture, miscellaneous. I'm just saying. Um, but yeah. But anyways, so they go into the shop, and I believe, yeah. So they see some smashed bottles for the olive oil because it's in glass bottles on the ground or on the floor, and then um, Soji goes through the door to try and find the manager, and he sees So, who is also uh, investigating the place. And yeah, and basically, he's also looking for some of the olive oil for his own cooking. So yeah, um, and Soji tries to get him to lead him to where the manager of the place is, but So does not know where the guy is. So, but if he finds him and they have the olive oil, he'll give him some. Basically, is what he says. But they see that when they're leaving and they go around the back, that So is talking to the guy who's the manager of the store, and it turns out the guy who's the manager of the store was a part of Shadow. So yeah, Soji, I think, initially at the very least, thinks that So is trying to do like a backdoor deal or some shit behind his back, so he can get So can get all of the olive oil that the guy has in stock. But it's obviously not the case when we actually see what's going on from So's point of view. So, yeah. Um, and then, um, basically, Soji then gets into a fight with a worm, and who's been going around disguising itself as different people and killing them and everything. And as he kills it, he not only gets a bottle of olive oil, but we also see that I think he also uses the thing that Arata gives him from the briefcase and everything to do it. I'm not exactly sure what it is because I think I missed that part maybe, but basically, yeah, he defeats the thing. He gets one of the bottles of olive oil. The rest are either smashed by the worm as it's fighting Soji in the clock up fast motion time thing, or they crash to the ground, except for the one that Soji saves. However, because they're fighting in I think it's a warehouse that they're fighting in, that Soji had Hiyori hiding in so that he could deal with the worm, and Arata is also there. Um, she sees the belt that Soji has around his waist as Kabuto, and she remembers that the boy who saved her several years ago, or I think it's 6 years ago, from the rubble in Shibuya, also had a belt like that. And she ends up thinking that he's the one that ended up killing her parents. And that's where we leave off with that plot. And obviously Arata's in shock of like, what? And yeah. So we get that bombshell. So yeah, I'm assuming that she might also assume that that's Soji, because I assume that she would hear his voice, but we'll probably get an answer to that at the beginning of episode 14. But yeah, so overall I think it's a good episode. And I think that it uses its time very effectively. I like the reveal that we get of Kakeyama being the bee now instead of So. And we don't really get the rivalry between So and Soji, because I think that that's mainly taken over between Soji and Daisuke. But it's good that we're getting a continuation of So's character and everything, and seeing him post the like character arc that the writers took him on in his last appearance. And that he's sort of, I guess, being sort of an atoner, and that he's trying to do more good. And yeah, just I like the direction that they're taking him, and I think that that is good that they're continuing with this character. I very much prefer most of the other characters in this show who are driving the plot than Soji. I'm not gonna lie. I almost said Sosuke. But yeah, because like Soji, he's kind of more just a reactionary kind of protagonist. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. He's just not driving the plot. Everyone else is, and things are just happening to him. But yeah. So yeah, I think that what this episode does well, it does particularly well. And I would say it's pretty good. So yeah. And I also got to just praise the clock up stuff. Also, something I forgot to mention for episode 12, the last fight between Soji and the worm that he kills. Basically, they have a fight around some sakura trees as the petals are falling from it. And I think that that is really, really cool, because they have the petals, for the most part, in, like, freeze framed around them as they're fighting and everything. I think that that's such a cool visual and everything. I really wish that they had, like, saved this series in HD, because apparently, ever since Kabuto, everything's been recorded in 1080i, but I think it took until either decade or the series or two before that for them to export the episodes in HD. Because yeah, they filmed everything in 1080i, but they didn't save HD versions of the episodes until years later for some reason. So effectively, they have the recordings of the different of the takes and everything probably on hard drives at Toei's headquarters. They just need to re-edit the episodes in HD and like to the HD masters that they have, or to the with the HD recordings that they have. I imagine that they probably wouldn't save a ton of the outtakes, so they'd probably only have the takes that they used ready to go, and they just need a skeleton crew of editors to piece everything back together. But yeah, and they already have the audio masters that are already like pretty well done, so they'd just have to re-edit everything to the audio that they have. So just saying. But yeah, I would love to just see these in English or in HD is what I'm saying. Because like the 480p transfers that they do have, they're fine. It's just that the higher quality uncompressed masters would be nice. So yeah, but that's just the thing that I have with the resolution of this. So yeah, I don't really have too much else to say on this. So I think it's a good episode. On to 14. Okay, so I think this next episode is actually pretty well produced and written for the most part. Uh, like I've been saying, the weak link is Soji, but I guess the rest of the episode kind of makes up for him being even more of a shithead than usual. I think. Anyways, so this episode deals with the stuff with Arata being found out to be a mole, the reformation of Soul or Shadow, not Soldier. That's isn't that like Final Fantasy VII? And and just all of that. Plus, we get an interesting cameo in this episode that genuinely, if you had no idea who the fuck this guy was, you would be confused as to why this guy had a prominent cameo. So yeah. So let's talk about that cameo real quick. It's a cameo by fucking Misawa Kikawada. The guy who played Takeshi Hongo in the Kamen Rider reboot movies, the first and the next. And if you want to see uh, my thoughts on those two movies, I do have podcast episodes on those. If you want to go see them, I still have to do the Shin Kamen Rider movie, but yeah. And basically, I feel like this cameo was either too delayed or too early to sort of tie in with either of those movies. Literally, this would have been a year after they filmed and released Kamen Rider the First, and this would have been too early for when they were filming Kamen Rider the Next, because they generally film these things like a few months before they come out. I think it's only more recently that Toei has given their writers and directors and producers and actors and everything more lead-in time for their shows and movies to come out. Because I know that Kamen Rider Zets started filming actually a year, or close to a year before it came out. I remember, what's his name? The guy who played Nox, his character, Yuki something, Fujiwara, something like that. He mentioned on his YouTube channel that, he got cast as Nox, and I think they started filming like a year, I think, before that. At least that video was filmed, and that video was from like a few months ago, I think, maybe a month or two at most. So yeah, and basically they had there was recent information that an episode that came out several weeks ago for Zets was filmed back in October. So yeah, one that I think came out in the month of May that was filmed all the way back in October. So you know they have a decent amount of lead-in time for that. Whereas in the past, it wasn't really that, or it wasn't really like that for Kamen Rider and Super Sentai and all these different shows. And then Toei, in terms of the schedules for some of their other shows, mainly their anime, Dragon Ball and One Piece specifically, those have had schedule changes where One Piece is now going seasonal with the anime's production, where yeah, they're going to be producing the anime episodes like probably, yeah, seasonal, so like in like part of the year to adapt the manga and everything, which will help in terms of pacing, and I think even the animation and everything. And then Dragon Ball. The Daima anime was actually in production for a full year or two before it actually came out. And then, in terms of the animation and everything, because they didn't want, from what I understand, it was because they didn't want another thing like Dragon Ball Super, where the animation was produced within about 5 to 6 weeks before the episodes came out and aired on TV. Which unfortunately, usually anime is produced, like 2 or 3 months, I think, before the episodes come out, so that the animators and producers and everything and writers and whatnot, have a decent amount of lead-in time to actually polish the episodes as much as they can before they come out, and everything. But that very fast-tracked schedule and everything, because it was basically announced, I think, like right after Resurrection F came out, and it was still in theaters. Basically, they started production of it then, I believe, for the show to come out 5 to 6 weeks later. That wasn't good, because I would say the animation for the first 4 episodes was decent of Super, and then episode 5 is where the animation fell apart. Then it sort of got back okay on an okay track, and then the Resurrection F stuff, specifically towards the end of that arc, is where the animation just started melting, and yeah, and they have no one to blame but themselves for giving their animators very like quick amounts of time to try to animate that show, because no matter how good your animators can be, if you don't give them enough time to specifically do what their job is to do, which is animate shit, the animation's not going to turn out great, you know. Um, but yeah, and then now we're getting like the newest Dragon Ball Super stuff with Dragon Ball Super Beerus, and then the recut of the Resurrection F arc, and apparently the Universe 6 tournament arc from Super, recut, somewhat reanimated, and like redone, being given a fresh coat of paint and everything and polish. So yeah, in the lead up to the Galactic Patrol arc, which is its own thing, and then they're probably going to do the arc after that, and then we'll see where they go from there, because there's only like, I think, 2 arcs at the end, 2 or 3 arcs that the manga did that the anime didn't do, because the anime stopped before they could get to those arcs, because they just wanted to go back to doing movies, I think. So yeah. And then Toriyama died, so they couldn't do anything more in terms of the manga, unfortunately. So yeah. But then that's also when they started doing Daima. So yeah. But it just, in terms of production time, that cameo either seems too late or too early. It's really weird. It's smack dab in the middle from 2006. So yeah, and it's really confusing why they put that cameo in there, because like, there was no movie for them, for the Kamen Rider the First stuff coming out, so really weird. And this would have been very much over a year later, so I have to imagine that's when they started pre-production, maybe on the next. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they were filming the next at that point. I don't know, but it was just weird, because that episode, this episode came out in. Sorry, I'm just trying to see on the April 30th, 2006. Kamen Rider the First, I think, came out in November of 2005, maybe. Yeah, so as I'm seeing it, the Kamen Rider the First movie came out in November of 2005 in Japan. And then this episode probably would have been filmed at either around that time or a little bit after that, probably in early 2006, I imagine. And like I said, Kamen Rider the Next wouldn't come out until after that in 2007. So yeah, the cameo, like I said, just seems a little late and everything. I imagine they probably couldn't fit him into whatever series was before Kabuto. But yeah, there's also another cameo which I did not recognize at all because I have not seen the series. Uh, Kenzaburo Kikuchi, who played Shiro Kanzaki, aka Kamen Rider Odin from Kamen Rider Ryuki, makes a cameo in this as well as a shadow soldier. And good for Kamen Rider Ryuki fans if you watched that series before this and you recognized him. Have not seen Ryuki yet. I'm going in kind of an anachronic order in terms of watching Kamen Rider, just with what's available to me. After I'm done with Kabuto, I will get to Ryuki. But yeah. Um, so I just wanted to say that when it comes to that shit. So yeah. Um, and he's also Masaya. He is seen riding the same bike that he rides as Takeshi in the Kamen Rider reboot movies. So it could be assumed maybe this is an alternate universe version of that version of Takeshi, but maybe not because he doesn't really even act like the same character. It's just blink and you'll miss it kind of thing. To I guess excite fans and maybe get them to soy jack and whatever at what's going on, or at them seeing him on uh, the screen in the show. So yeah, it's just one of those things. Kamen Rider has a weird like continuity thing in regards to if everything's supposed to take place in the same universe, if it's not, if it's a multiverse, if it's not, if it's alternate timelines, if it's not. It literally just depends on the series and how the writers and producers want to have that feel or have that be uh like how that comes across because like the Kamen Rider, the first and the next reboot movies definitely take place in their own continuity because they're not in the original continuity of the Showa era. And then the Heisei and Reiwa eras kind of have their own feel where they're in this sliding scale of maybe they take place in the same universe, maybe they don't. And then you have Kamen Rider Decade, which fucks things up even more by adding the AR worlds, which, yeah, I don't even fucking know, realistically, dude. So, yeah. Um, so the answer is literally it depends. So, yeah. Um, I just take it as alternate universes, unless if specifically the shows are stated to be connected and there's firm good continuity between them that doesn't fuck anything up. But yeah. So yeah, I'm overthinking it. It's just a cameo. It's whatever. And then the other cameo in this, he's not even supposed to be the same character. He's just the actor. So yeah. So to get back on track with this, so the plot of the episode, like I said, has to do with Zect tracking down and keeping tabs on Arata, which leads to Kageyama taking his phone, which is just fucking weird. So basically, Arata and what's her fuck tries to convince Daisuke to is Yuzuki. They try to convince Daisuke to join up with or work with specifically, maybe not join the organization, but work with Zect. And initially, Arata is unable to do so because he Daisuke is more so just more. What is the word I'm trying to look for? I'm trying to think of. He's more looking, or he's more, I guess, amenable. There we go, amenable to women than men. So yeah, so he's just so Arata's kind of pissed that like he couldn't convince him, but you know, Mizuki could. So, yeah. So we have that plot going on. He gives Kageyama his phone because Kageyama asks him to borrow his phone since his is apparently out of power, which is a lie. But yeah, somehow like um I don't know. It's weird that Arata doesn't stay there so that Kageyama can just use his phone to call whoever he was gonna call and just leaves him with his phone. It's really weird. I don't understand that plot point at all. I understand Arata is like pissed and just wants to get out of there, but at the same time, it's just like I wouldn't leave without my phone. Just saying, even if I know the person. But yeah, which leads to when Kageyama and Mizuki are investigating the next killing of a Zect or a former Shadow agent. They find his phone, and it's shown that Arata was like in communication with the guy, and the guy sent Arata on his phone like data on the Shadow soldiers and everything. Which leads everybody to believe that Arata is the mole that they're looking for and everything. So yeah, so while that's happening, there's also us dealing with why do I keep forgetting fucking names in between episodes? Hiyori dealing with the fallout of Kabuto and everything, and seeing his belt and everything. So she, after Soji leaves as Kabuto, and she doesn't find out that he is Kabuto. He just leaves with the olive oil that he wanted. Um, After she accuses him of killing her parents, she goes to Soji's house and tries to talk with him about Kabuto. He tries to convince her that it's all nothing and that she shouldn't really trust what she's thinking and everything and her childhood memories and whatnot. And she basically is pissed at him because she also brings up the belt that she got from his backpack in one of the previous episodes that shocked her, and she started remembering shit from her childhood, from the incident that happened in Shibuya. And she he's trying to gaslight her on it and everything. And yeah, no, she's not taking no for an answer. Good for you, Hiyori. Good for you. Don't be fucking charmed by this asshole. He realistically, it's not like I think that he is capable or would have killed her parents as a kid. It's just that like I do not like this character that much. So it's like when he is trying to like keep his secret that he is Kabuto and everything, and he doesn't want to, I guess, anger her or whatever the fuck. Um, yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just one of those things. So after she leaves, he goes to her restaurant. He tells her his usual, which I'm assuming is like maybe some kind of food and then maybe a special of the day or something like that. She makes it to taste bad, and so he tastes it and immediately is just like, I'm never coming here again, and leaves. Yeah, it's just like, bruh, come on, dude. Because she said that she never wanted to see him again, and for him to leave her alone, I believe. And yeah, but he obviously didn't do that. So yeah, she drove him away the only way that she knew how, which is ruin his appetite. Um, so yeah. So then what else? So he goes all around Tokyo, or their neighborhood basically, where or not even their neighborhood, that their section of Tokyo, where like looking for a restaurant. He tries to go to a few of his usual spots, but they're closed for some reason. They have like signs on there. I don't know if it's, I think it's like maintenance or something like that, but yeah. And that's where we get the cameo of Messiah, and it's just yeah. Um, so yeah, and then Arata tries to, when he runs into him, tries to uh like get his help because he has been directly accused of being the mole, and he tries to run because he doesn't want to get apprehended by Zect and possibly killed and everything. So yeah, but Sochi tells him to solve his own problems, which is just like he knows, or actually does he? Yeah, I think he does know. Um, because he, I believe, stopped uh Kageyama when he noticed he was tailing Arata, and asks him why he's tailing him. He doesn't let Kageyama see his face, but Kageyama does tell him that Arata's a mole, which is just like, yeah. So Soji knows what's going on with Arata, but he doesn't give a shit because he's hungry. What the fuck is wrong with this man? Like, genuinely. I know he's a narcissistic piece of shit, but Christ, man, why? Why are you like this? Um, so, yeah. So, eventually that leads Soji to going back to the restaurant that he was at after, he already has lunch with his sister, and, he already tastes some of the food. He wanted her to taste something that he was making earlier when they were talking, but she didn't want to. Um, but yeah, she has lunch with his sister because she had a half day at school, and obviously came home and everything. And somehow the food that she was eating, I think coupled with his sister being there and everything, basically convinces her that there's no way Soji would do anything uh like like that. I think she is putting together the pieces that he is Kabuto and he was the kid that saved her several years prior. But it hasn't been really explicitly shown to the audience that she believes that, but I think we are given enough pieces to know or to believe, yeah, she probably just can put two and two together and come to that conclusion. Um, Not bad in terms of the storytelling there. Just pointing it out. Um, so yeah, so that's probably for a future reveal. So yeah, so after he goes back and she's in a better mood towards him, she prepares new food for him, and he he eats and loves the food again and everything. And after he is done eating, the Kabuto thing comes and gets him to help Arata, obviously. And yeah. So Arata is finally tracked down by Shadow, and he's surrounded by their troops. Basically, it's revealed there that Shadow wasn't really disbanded. They were just secretly disbanded, I guess. To make, or they made it look like they were. So then, he uh, or Kageyama asks him to hand over his gun, which he almost does, though he has his hand on the trigger. But then he's shot before anything can happen, and the guy is the cameo I talked about earlier of Kenzaburo Kikuchi, who says, or he thought that he might shoot him, so he basically shot him as a precautionary measure. And Kageyama basically takes that as him being the mole. Basically, it was a setup of having Arata kind of be the fall guy unknowingly for, and everyone else believing he was the mole. framing him and everything so they could actually find the real mole. And when Yuzuki, whenever she, or when she when she brings up the fact that he just let Arata get shot and everything and he doesn't really care, he says Arata's just a trainee anyways. It's like, you asshole piece of goddamn garbage. Like, Arata is a decent guy. He's just kind of dumb, not gonna lie. And overly emotional and everything. Like, bruh. Fuck. You let an innocent guy get shot for your own fucking purposes. What is wrong with you? But yeah. So then they basically get ready to take that guy in, I believe. But Soji comes in as Kabuto and determines that, or he basically reveals that he used his clock up power to redirect the bullets, and as well as push Arata over, which realistically would have the same kind of impact as a bullet. It's just that there's no like piece of metal in his body and everything. So Arata is lying there, just he's still alive, but he's like still hurt by what just happened. And I do like this. It's very much like Quicksilver from the X-Men movies, where you have that kind of stuff happening. And yeah, if you were to be fucking pushed over by something that's moving at an incredible speed, you would still feel pain from that, because it's at a horribly or it's at a more massive force than a regular like push would be. So yeah. So Arata's still alive, but he determines that only one of them saw him in his clock up form, and that person, or that shadow agent, is a worm, and it's one that disguised itself as the other guy that shot or tried to shoot Arata. It kills the guy for some reason, rather than either the guy shooting on it or the others shooting on it. I don't understand that whatsoever, but okay. I should just make that into like a shirt or some shit. I don't understand that, but okay. And let me know if you guys would want to see that in terms of merch. But anyways, so yeah, so they start. So it kills the regular guy after it says you will survive in me, and then the shadow soldiers start firing on it, engaging it and everything. Kageyama well, actually I think Soji starts fighting it, I believe. Then Kageyama turns into the bee and starts fighting the other worms that show up. And yeah, so Soji beats the main one, and then Kageyama beats the others and everything. And I'm trying to remember what else. Oh yeah, and right, Daisuke shows up. He was in the episode earlier after he got propositioned to work with Zect, and he told Yuzuki where or which direction Arata went, and he's shown up as Drake and everything, and it starts a three-way battle between Drake, the Bee, and Kabuto, and that's where we leave off. So overall, I think this episode is actually really, really good in terms of the main plot that's going on. The only thing I really just don't like is Soji and just his attitude. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the fact that he thought he could really, like, badly gaslight Hiyori is really dumb. I don't understand. Like, this dude's supposed to be smart. He's supposed to, like, not only think that he's smart, they've set him up to where he's supposed to know shit and he's supposed to at least understand, like, most human emotional reactions and shit. But what he ends up doing is he just ends up being an emotionless piece of shit. Nothing that matters to him matters is basically his attitude towards it, and this is partly why I don't like him. He is just this much of a piece of shit. Like, he treats everyone else in the world as if they do not matter to him, even though he wants to save humanity and everything. And I don't fucking know. It's different from someone like, say, Captain Marvelous from Gokaiger, where Captain Marvelous is a guy who will let everyone, or who will let other people deal with their own shit that's going on for them, but he will step in if he feels that they need help, or if they ask for it, or whatever the fuck, and he, like, he's also a good guy where he knows things will turn out all right at the very least most of the time, and like, and everything, but he's not gonna just let random fuckers die and everything in the pursuit of them working out their own shit. Like, Soji frustrates me to the point where, like, I do not fucking like him. I like a lot of the other characters in this show. I like a lot of the other main characters because I feel like they're decent people. They have their hearts in the right place, and, like, I don't know, just that, yeah, they're just better than Soji. I do not understand why Soji is written like he is, and why the show seems to not understand that he's a big piece of shit who needs an attitude adjustment. Like, they keep giving him people to rival him and combat his, like, ideologies and shit like that, but the show still keeps putting him in the fucking right when he's not, or at least he shouldn't be. Like, it's like I said with episode 13, like, he's, like, you can give him credit that yes, he is right about a lot of the things that he says. However, the show shouldn't treat that as, like, as his point of view being the only one that matters. That's what I get from this show thus far, is that only his point of view matters. And also, he's not willing to admit his faults. He's not willing to, like, just admit, yeah, I was wrong here, or I'm sorry for how I handled this. Even though I was right about this shit, I wish I wasn't. Or, I'm sorry about how this turned out. I wouldn't have wanted it to. If he had an ounce of fucking humility and maturity about him that did not fucking rely on him being proven right first, I wouldn't mind as much. But the way that they're writing him in this shit is just annoying. I don't understand why the writers thought this was good. Like, so fucking dumb. And the thing is, I don't... they're only, like, minutely aware of how annoying he is, because in some episodes, they fuck with him a little bit by throwing jokes at his way, or throwing jokes his way about other people not liking his shtick or going along with his shtick, but he's still right in the end anyways, or they come around to his point of view? Why the fuck? Why would you write it like that? Oh my fucking god. Narcissists are not supposed to be proven right all the fucking time, or put in the right all the fucking time. That's how you get shitheads like fucking Donald Trump. But, and other people like him and all that shit in real life. It's just... And it's like I compared him to Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory. I don't... The thing is, a lot of what Sheldon does in The Big Bang Theory, at the very least, is you can put it through the filter of them just trying to make the audience laugh with how he thinks about things, how he expresses himself, what he says, and all that shit. It's through the lens of comedy, of situational comedy. The bad thing about The Big Bang Theory is that they never really put Sheldon in the wrong, and when they do, like, they turn it, they for some reason fucking flip it on its head and try to make you think, oh, he was right all along or some shit, or make the characters somehow sympathize with him. And only on a few occasions that I can remember do they actually make Sheldon suffer the consequences of his actions like they should. It's so fucking terrible. Over the 12 years of that show, I can only think of, like, a few instances where they actually did that. And this, outside of some of the jokes in some of the episodes, it's like Soji never actually fucking learns. And that's the problem. He is a static protagonist that has a negative character arc. Between episodes, like, he doesn't really learn anything, and that's just the fucking problem. It wouldn't be so bad if they maybe had him go on a character arc where he learns that his point of view isn't the only one, and that he could be better as a person and reach his goals if he wasn't so fucking awful. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe that's something that happens in future episodes, but, like, I don't know. But yeah. So, overall, I think the episode is fine. I just don't like the Soji stuff. After the stuff where he's talking to Hiyori to try and hide his thing. And that's kind of the thing. I don't mind him trying to hide his secret identity as Kabuto. I think he could have easily handled that shit a completely different way, though. It's like, Hiyori is on the track of realizing he is fucking Kabuto, and she already is on the track to realizing that he's the kid that saved her from the Shibuya incident. Just come the fuck clean, bro. Like, 2 people already know, well, 3 people already know you're fucking Kabuto. Hiyori knowing you're Kabuto would not really change much. It would just explain to her certain things about what's going on in the show so far. Just, oh my fucking god. Like, and I know Kamen Rider can do better. Because, yeah, they do better. They had done better beforehand. I'm also, at the same time as I'm watching this show, watching Agito. Agito handles the secret identity of its protagonist a lot better, I think, than this show does. And then, fucking Kamen Rider Zets, I think, handles the reveals and everything to other people a lot better than this show does. So, yeah, I would say I would very much rather prefer how the original Kamen Rider series did this shit. The original Kamen Rider series, for the first 13 episodes, is very frustrating in regards to the fact that they have a very static character with Takeshi Hongo, and the fact that he apparently does not want to reveal his secret to anyone but Tachibana for some fucking reason. But even then, it's not because Takeshi is a narcissistic jackass who doesn't give a shit about other people. He cares about other people. He wants to protect other people. He wants to save the world from Shocker. But because of, like, stoicism and how, like, masculinity was back then, especially in Japan in the 70s, and tropes and all this shit that needed to die, like, that's why he doesn't reveal his secret. It's kind of like the Incredible Hulk kind of thing, but, like, less understandable. Not saying that he needed to reveal everything to everybody, but, like, not revealing he's Kamen Rider and a cyborg to Ruriko was fucking stupid. So, yeah, it makes no sense as to why he didn't do it. And I thought he did it off screen, But then later on in that batch of episodes, the narrator reveals he didn't. As if the show forgot about it and then remembered it for a stretch of episodes. Ugh. In this, it's just like, that is way more preferable, though, than this. Just Jesus fucking Christ. Anyways, so yeah, I don't like Soji. Sorry. At least thus far, I do not like Soji. I gave him points early on in the episodes where they tried to make him come off better, but here, no. He's just a dick. He's just a douchebag. Like, you would not like this person in real life. I'm just saying that. If he were a real person, you would not like him. Okay? And that's what makes him frustrating as a protagonist. So, yeah, it doesn't help that the fact that the show keeps putting him in the right and making characters side with him. Or at the very least not, like, be too harsh on him. So, yeah. So, that's it for episode 14. We're on to 15 now. Alright, so, yeah, with this episode, it immediately begins with a fucking problem, with Soji, as you could probably guess. Basically, he has a thing where, after he's done dealing with the worm, he goes back to, actually, the worm, but then also, finishing, I guess, the fight with the bee, or Kageyama and Daisuke. He goes back to where Arata is, and, basically just doesn't try to console him at all. He just tells him to fucking get over it and be glad that he's alive, which is just... Bro... Arata is having a perfectly normal and reasonable and understandable reaction to finding out the fact that he was heartlessly being used as a, the bait to lure out the mole in Zect, and, not the right words at all. The thing that I fucking hate about it, too, is the fact that, Yuzuki, she doesn't fucking just, like, tell him that those weren't the right words to say, and then Arata doesn't just fucking lay him out for that shit. Like, genuinely, what I would have loved in that moment is for Arata to just for him to get up, slowly approach Soji, and then fucking punch him to the ground, and then run off. It's just... Oh my fucking god. It doesn't help with the fact that, like I said, the show either puts him in the right or makes it seem like the characters, like, they either instantly, like, ease up or forgive him or whatever the fuck for the shit that he says that's not good. And I genuinely just would love if someone would just punch him the fuck out. Just so fucking much. He needs comeuppance for being an asshole. He just does. I don't understand why they wrote Soji as he is in this series. But thankfully, the rest of the episode does not really have much of him in regards to the plot. He's just along for the ride. There's a new worm that is going around and turning people into basically mulch. And we're led to believe that it has disguised itself as a doctor. I think it has, but there's also the fact that it shows up later on after the doctor gets disguised as, and what was it? And he first it's Daisuke that fights it, then Kageyama, and then Yeah. But then, but along the way, we see a few misdirects as to revealing that the worm disguised as the Doctor is not the one killing people. Um, which is, I think, actually decent for how they did it. Um, and yeah, and that whole plot, it also is part of the B plot, I think, or maybe it's supposed to be the A plot of Arata trying to prove to himself that he can track down the stuff with the worms and prove to himself that he can deal with them and everything. Um, so yeah, it's just, a self-improvement, self-worth kind of thing, which I don't mind. I think it's actually decent. I still think he should have laid Soji the fuck out, but you know. Um, so yeah. Um, so we also see an interaction between Soji and uh Daisuke at the restaurant where um Daisuke gives sorry, I keep forgetting for her fucking name, Yuzuki, a makeover, and then Soji, well, he compliments him in his makeup skills. He also redoes her hair to match the makeover and everything. And they have an argument over um, if her new hair matches the makeup and everything uh, that Daisuke put on her. And yeah, it's just one of those kinds of things. So yeah, so then, so we just have that. So then at the end of the episode, because Soji is interested to find out what's going on when, he is tailing not Arata, but Mizuki and Daisuke when they're tailing Arata, and Arata sees either the Doctor or the Worm, and then they see the other one. Uh, Soji hears a woman screaming and then goes to where she's fallen onto the ground and she's dead, and then she turns into the mulch, and then um, he goes to find out what's going on, and we see that he has turned into, or he has joined Shadow and become their leader, basically. Which kind of goes with his line from, I think, either last episode or 2 episodes ago, where he said to Kageyama that he's no leader, or no real leader. And he does give them orders for Kageyama to turn into the bee, which he does, and he starts fighting the worm. Then the other soldiers to flank the worm on both the left and right sides to get an advantage and everything, to get a strategic advantage. And yeah, not bad, honestly, for that. I'll give him a little bit of credit there. But yeah. So yeah, so overall, kind of a more simple episode. After the last few episodes have just been a little bit more uh in terms of like plot and story complexity. Um but yeah. Still don't like Soji because he's an asshole, but um I'm kind of intrigued to see where this goes. It leaves off on a cliffhanger, a decent cliffhanger at that builds a bit of intrigue and mystery. But yeah, but unfortunately, last episode of the podcast episode. So yeah, so I don't really have much else to say on that. I just think decent episode, minus just Soji being Soji. So yeah. Um, there are a few funny bits, I think, with Hiyori's reaction. I was almost gonna say Hayato. Uh, Hiyori's reaction to um Soji and Daisuke using the restaurant like it's a beauty parlor and everything. She has two different reactions for that. I feel like they missed the opportunity to do the rule of threes and have another one. Um, but it's otherwise fine for what it is. Um, so yeah, and I do like the fact that like Mizuki doesn't really have much of a reaction outside of the fact that she seems to like how they redid her look. Um, and so yeah, not really much else to say on that front. Um, but yeah, it's just a decent episode. So yeah, looking forward to the next one. So yeah, guys, that is it for this podcast episode. Hope you liked listening to it, especially my fucking rant on Soji and everything. So yeah. So yeah, I don't really have much else to say on this. So links to the description on my shit. Subscribe if you want. And I'll see you guys in the next one.